Hello everybody and welcome to another video. And today we're going to look at a piece of music which is a collaboration between a band I have heard of and a band I've not heard of. Now we're going to be looking at a song called Boatman by Mono Inc. featuring VNV Nation. Now I have heard of VNV Nation before. Obviously I have actually covered them on this channel before, but Mono Inc. I've not heard of. I don't know who they are. I don't know anything about them. So obviously I had to try and look them up and find out anything I could. And Mono Inc. is a German gothic rock, gothic metal and industrial band from Hamburg, founded in 2000. So they're actually fairly recent, relatively speaking. I mean, okay, they've been around for 25 years now, but, you know, relatively speaking, that's fairly new. Mono is derived from monomania, a term from the 19th century psychiatric disease theory, a form of partial insanity conceived as a single pathological preoccupation in an otherwise sound mind. Monomania Incorporated means Company of the Partially Insane, which was then shortened to Mono Inc. for the band's name. So there is a hell of a lot more information going on here. But we won't go into that. You know, you can look them up further if you wish to, if you already know who they are. Cool. So it says here that they are a sort of rock, gothic, metal, industrial sort of band, and that kind of fits with VNV Nation. He's more leaning to the sort of electronica side of music. You know, it's a lot of synthesizers, drum machines and that sort of thing in VNV Nation, and he's Irish if I remember correctly. So, you know, and the singer from VNV Nation, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He's an excellent singer. He's got a great voice. So I'm curious to see how Mono Inc. fits in with that. Like I said, we're going to be looking at a song called Boatman. This has actually come up on my recommended feed quite a few times for quite a while. A while.
We're going to be here for a while.
Well, I don't know if... Wait, what?
We're going to be here for a while.
A while?
Yeah, a while.
You mean a while?
A while.
A while.
A while.
A while.
A while.
A while.
Ryan, you're acting weird.
Oh, come on. That one doesn't even have an H.
Anyway, it's been coming up on my suggested feed for quite a while, and, you know, thought, sod it. Let's have a look. See what it is. So we'll jump into this and we'll see what we've got. But before we do that, if you could take a moment to like and subscribe if you haven't already, I would really appreciate it. You know, I've been doing this for about 7 years now, and not even 3% of people watching my videos are actually subscribed, which is a little bit disheartening, because I like to think I do something a bit different from other reaction channels. You know, they just look at a song, go, yeah, I like it, no, I didn't, and that's about all you get. I like to actually discuss the songs. I like to talk about the music, the lyrics, the music, the themes behind the songs. So, you know, if you could like and subscribe, it would really help me out. It doesn't cost you anything, takes a fraction of a second, and would make the biggest difference to me and the channel. But let's just jump into this song and see what we've got. So this is Boatman by Mono Inc. featuring VNV Nation. Let's have a look.
Suffering from all the harm I see,
Hell yes. That. Do you know what? That is an excellent piece. I love that. That is so good. You know, like I said, I've never heard of Mono Inc. before, and I want to find out more about this band. If anybody who's watching this knows more about Mono Inc. or knows any of their other music, please suggest more to me. I'd really like to investigate that band further. Because, like I said, I know VNV Nation. I know them quite well. I've heard quite a lot of their music. But Mono Inc. is completely new to me. I know nothing about the band except for what I looked up earlier. And I know nothing, you know, I've not heard any of their other music. So if anybody can suggest something by Mono Inc. that they think I should listen to, please do. You know, is this typical of their sound? Or are they quite different? Because, you know, in the description it said they were sort of more industrial sort of metal. Is this different from their usual sound? Because this has got quite a bit of electronica going on in it, you know, synthesizers, keyboards and stuff like that, which is found typically in a fair bit of industrial metal. But is this typical of their music? Is there other stuff that I really should listen to? And if there is a specific song that you think I should listen to, please tell me. I really want to know. But this sounds brilliant. You know, you've got I cannot think of his name. What is his name? What is the bloody singer's name? Ronan Harris, the singer from VNV Nation. You know, Ronan's got a very specific sound to his voice. You know, it's a little bit nasal, but there's the distinct sort of hint of an Irish accent in his vocal performance. Whereas Mono Inc., the singer there is called Martin Engler, it would seem. You know, he's got a fairly deep sort of voice, not very, very deep, but he's got a much deeper sound to him than Ronan does. And it's got a very smooth sound in his voice as well. It's a very, very relaxing sort of tone in his performance. And the two voices come together and they work brilliantly together. And, you know, if this is an example of what Mono Inc. normally sounds like, I can see why this collaboration works so well. You know, the combination of VNV Nation and Mono Inc. coming together to create this piece of music, it sounds phenomenal. It is an excellent piece of music. And it's beautiful, really. I really love this piece of music. You can guarantee I will be listening to this song a lot. You know, and like I said, if anybody can suggest anything else by Mono Inc., please do. I really want to know more. Now, the song being called Boatman, immediately it sort of springs to mind Charon or Sharon, however you want to pronounce it, the boatman of the underworld, you know, who ferried souls across the River Styx. That's the first thing that comes to mind when I hear the word boatman. And from the sound of the lyrics, it could possibly be alluding to that, or he could just be talking about trying to escape, because he's talking about all the horrible things he's seen and witnessed in life, and he wants to get away from them. So he could just be talking to a boatman in general, saying, look, I just want to get away from this as much as possible. Or it could be a suggestion of, you know, talking to Sharon or Charon, however you want to pronounce it, you know, down in the River Styx, saying, you know, I've seen some terrible things. I want my soul to be taken swiftly so I can get away from it. I'm not entirely sure as to the exact sound of it, but it is basically someone trying to escape from all the horrible and bad things that have happened in the world and in their life. I mean, the opening line is, from all the hurt I'm suffering, from all the harm I see, from all these eyes of emptiness and all those evil deeds. So, you know, all the hurt I'm suffering, so he's been through something quite painful, quite traumatic. You know, he suffered quite a bit. All the harm I see, you know, he sees all the bad stuff that's happening in the world. You know, all the violence, the vile behaviours in the world. From all the eyes of emptiness, you know, that could be alluding to the people who commit these atrocities. You know, they're basically dead inside. They're hollow, empty-eyed vessels who don't care, they have no empathy or love towards anything else in the world. And all those evil deeds, all the horrible things he's seen. Where the rainbow starts to end across the swell behind the sea. Where the rainbow starts to end, let the currents carry me. Rainbow is a sort of sign of hope in a way, and I believe at one point it was considered like a sign of new beginnings. Because where the rainbow ends, it's an infinite distance away. It's a long way away. It's impossible to reach the end of a rainbow. So he wants to get as far away as possible, and like I said, the rainbow is a sort of sign of hope, a sort of sign of new beginnings, because when you see a rainbow, it's normally after a heavy rain, it's a sort of cleansing, if you will, when the rain comes down, it sort of cleanses the world, and the rainbow is there sort of going like, bing, look, it's all nice and shiny and clean again now, we can start again, So he wants to go where the rainbow starts, or it says where the rainbow starts to end. So again, looking to reach the end of the rainbow across the swell beyond the sea, because it is a long way away. And he wants to go there. He says, let the currents carry me. Then it goes into that chorus, take me away, boatman, far, far away. Take me away, boatman, let me go astray. That literally says everything. Take me away. I want to get away from where I am now. I want to get away from all this harm, this hatred, this pain, the suffering in the world. I want to get as far away from it as possible. I want to head that way where everything looks bright, shiny, positive and hopeful. Let me go astray. I want to escape from this. I don't care where I go, just so long as it's away from here. Then it goes, from all the love I never got, from all the care I lacked, from all the blows that rained on me, but I won't count back. Where the pain begins to end across the swell behind the sea. Where the pain begins to end, let the currents carry me. So it's a variation of the sort of pre-chorus that we had before. Excuse me. So from all the love I never got, so, maybe he was... what's the word I'm looking for? Not abandoned. He was, sort of ignored. Maybe, maybe he never managed to find that anyone that cared enough for him. So maybe he's lived a very lonely life, and maybe he's been scorned or spurned. Maybe he's been looked down upon all his life. He's been deemed unlovable, possibly. All the care I lacked, so no one cared for them, possibly. From all the blows that rained on me, again, that sort of suggests, that he's encountered violence and brutality and evil directed towards him, suggesting that he's been beaten or attacked. And he says, but I won't count back, so he's suffered all this pain, all this anguish, all this brutality, but he's not going to keep tabs of it. He's not going to use it. He's not going to try and seek revenge, sort of thing. He just wants he wants to get away from it. He doesn't want to relive it. He doesn't want to avenge it. He's just like, right, I've suffered all of this stuff. I'm not looking for vengeance. I'm not looking to get back at anybody. I just want to get away from it all. I'm sick to death of this. I just want to leave. And then that pre-chorus, like I said, is slightly different. It says where the pain begins to end, so where I can escape from this pain, the pain is no longer there. I want to go there where I can escape the pain, where the pain begins to end across the swell behind the sea. So escaping far away as possible. Where the pain begins to end, let the currents carry me. And then it goes into that chorus, take me away, boatman, far, far away. Take me away, boatman, let me go astray. Take me away, boatman, far, far away. Take me away, boatman, take me away, boatman. And it that sort of repeats, while Ronan starts repeating the opening verse, saying, from all the hurt I'm suffering, from all the harm I see, from all these eyes of emptiness. He repeats those lines whilst Mono Inc., or can't remember his name again now, whilst Martin Engler is singing the chorus, he's, Ronan is repeating the opening verse. So to me, it does suggest, he's trying to escape from a life of misery, a life of abuse, a life of brutality, you know, stuff that he suffered from himself, and, you know, stuff that he's seen around the world, because, you know, the world is a brutal, violent place, and, you know, at the moment it's getting a lot worse, you know, and he's basically like, I'm fed up of this shit, I want to get away from it. Now, like I said, this could either be referring to just an everyday boatman, you know, he could just be going to the docks to run away, you know, he could just have gone to a local harbour and said, like, you, boatman, I want to get away from here, take me wherever you're going, you know, I want to go over that way, you know, as long as it's not here, as long as it's not anywhere associated with the life I'm leading at the moment, I just want to get away. Or, like I said, it could possibly be referring to the boatman of the afterlife, taking him across the river Styx. It's like, throughout my life I've suffered all of this, you know, I've now passed into the immortal realm, as it were, and I want to get as far away from my life as possible. I want to go forth into peace and happiness. You know, I want to exist in my, you know, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, in the afterlife. I want to exist in the afterlife without memory of what I have been through in real life, so take me away from it all. You know, you could be saying that to Karen or Sharon, however you want to pronounce the name. You know, so it could be read both ways, I think, you know, whether it be a real boatman or the boatman of the underworld, or I could be completely misinterpreting this completely altogether, and that's very, very possible. You know, I never say that my translation of the song is the definitive one. You know, it might mean something completely different to somebody else, but that's how it comes across to me. You know, if it means something else to you, if you think it might be saying something else, or if you know the original intention behind it, let me know. I'm curious. But, you know, it's a great song. It is an absolutely astounding performance. You know, the two voices come together so well. It's such a captivating piece of music. It is a beautiful piece of music. You know, it just sounds amazing. I absolutely love it. And like I said, if anybody is familiar with Mono Inc., if you've heard their music before, if you know of any other piece of music by them that I should be listening to, that you think I should hear, let me know. Because I really want to discover more about the band. You know, like I said at the beginning, is this a typical example of their music? Do they do heavier stuff? Do they do lighter stuff? Is the vocal style a traditional version of what they typically sound like? Do they not have a typical sound? This is a mistake I made on a previous video when I was talking about Sleep Token. You know, I said, what is their typical sound? Apparently the band doesn't have a typical sound. Sleep Token, that is. So, you know, I made a bit of a boob there. But I will be revisiting them. But we're not talking about Sleep Token now. We're talking about Mono Inc. You know, I want to know more about this band. I want to get a better idea of what they sound like. So if anybody knows more of their music, let me know. I'm really curious. But from what I've heard in this track, they sound brilliant. Like I say, I know VNV Nation very, very well. Absolutely love his music. I want to find out more about Mono. But I don't know really what else I can say on that, so I'm going to have to leave that as it is. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like or a subscribe if you haven't already. It would really, really help me out. You know, I've been doing this for about 7 years, give or take, at this precise moment, and not even 3% of people watching my videos are actually subscribed, which is a little disheartening. Because, you know, I put a lot of time into this, I put a lot of effort into this, and, you know, I like to think I do something different than most other reactors, because they'll look at a piece of music and go, yeah, I like it, no I didn't, and that's about all you get generally from most reactors. I like to talk about the songs. I like to discuss the meanings, the themes and the stories and the morals behind the songs, you know, explore the lyrics. What is the artist trying to say in that piece of music? Because that's something I think goes widely unexplored by a lot of reactors, and it's also something that is widely ignored by people who misunderstand heavy metal. You know, many people look at heavy metal and are under this misconception that heavy metal is all about murder, violence and brutality, and that's really not the case. You know, I've covered close to 900 songs on this channel, most of them being metal, And a majority of them have been about real life things, like talking about mental illnesses, talking about domestic violence, depression, homelessness, homeless veterans even. You know, almost every song I've looked at has had some sort of real world applicable meaning. You know, it's not been about violence, murder and brutality. Granted, some of it has, but not all of it. You know, we've covered things like native New Zealand history in certain songs, you know, like alien weaponry. You know, we've looked at some very, very interesting things. Some of them have been just complete fantasy stories, such as with Ghosts of Atlantis, you know. And this is why I like talking about what the songs are about, because most people are under the misconception that heavy metal is just about murder, violence, sacrifice and stuff like that, and that's just simply not true. And that's why I do what I do. And I kind of hoped that, you know, other people might appreciate that, because I want to know what other people think about a piece of music. You know, what does a song mean to you? Because I think it was Dave Grohl said you can sing a song to an arena of 80,000 people, and 80,000 people will sing that song back to you for 80,000 different reasons, because that song will affect each individual person differently. It will mean something different to each individual person. And I want to have that conversation. I want to find out what a song means to you. What do you think the song means? How do you interpret it? And that's why I do what I do. So, you know, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe. You know, it doesn't cost you anything, it takes a fraction of a second, but it does make the biggest difference to me and the channel. But yeah, that's about all I've got for you today. Thank you all very, very much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye bye.
Take me away.